November of last year, I planted out this end of the bed with onion sets. So overwintering onion sets, a Japanese variety called Senchu. And you can grow onions from seed, you can grow them from sets, and oftentimes you get the same result. Onions that are a really good size, that need harvesting and drying out so that you can save and use them when it's the middle of winter, not just now. Although I do admit that we have been coming out here and grabbing onions as we need them, as they're growing. And when you do that, you can use a bit of the stem as well because it hasn't dried out, and you can use that for flavorings as well, as long as you cook it really well. But now today, I need to dig these up, start drying them out. We're due for even more rain over the coming days, and we've had quite a rainy time of it the past couple of weeks. So I've got my fork here. I'm going to gently pull these up, and then we're going to take them into the greenhouse, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to be drying them. You may have noticed from the background just now that the deck looks a little bit different, and the sun is out, so Josh and I just moved the cushions back out so that you can see our new outdoor sofa. This is an early birthday gift that I bought for myself, and it really is just to make more use out of our deck and to enjoy the summer sun when it does come out. And to celebrate the transformation of our deck, I made a delicious sharing platter using Waitrose products alongside homegrown vegetables. I absolutely love Waitrose's line of vegetarian summer offerings, and I used quite a few of them to create the platter. Harissa halloumi kebabs were the star, and they are incredibly delicious. I also used Plant Living mushroom and leek sausages, Plant Living Moroccan-style falafels, smoky aubergine baba ganoush, and 2 types of creamy and flavorful hummus. Now to make it, I grilled homegrown carrots and courgettes on the stovetop, then the halloumi, sausages, and falafels. It really didn't take that long to make, and arranging all the ingredients on a large plate was really fun and creative. There was just a short trip out to our deck to pick and nibble away and enjoy a quiet evening together at home. Waitrose has a really wide range of summer products available right now. And they're perfect for creating recipes and dishes for gatherings or just to enjoy at home. It really creates that summer vibe without having to go anywhere. And as far as their range, you can browse everything over on their website. I'll leave a link down in the video description. You can order online over there as well. And they have vegetarian options like the ones that I used in the platters, but they also have things like New York style beef burgers, Colombian coffee ice cream, and just tons more. And if you grow your own vegetables, you can throw those into the mix as well. I've obviously used courgettes and carrots in my sharing platter, but use whatever you have on hand. And that really jazzes up your Waitrose recipes and adds that homegrown touch. These onions are still pretty wet, and if you look closely, you'll see that the soil is moist and this outer skin of the onion is a bit wet as well. And we don't want that really, because the more skin that's on the outside of the onion, the longer it can last in storage. If it's dried out, it's in good condition. So what I'm gonna do is dry these out here inside the greenhouse. And normally I use this rack for starting off seedlings and young plants, but because it has this mesh floor on each level, it can introduce a lot of airflow. So what I'm going to do is just lay these out on top, staggering them a bit, and let them dry out. 57 onions, not too bad for a space that is 4 feet by about 6 foot. And I've got each layer of this shelving unit covered in onions. The greens will die back, they'll all turn yellow, and you could even braid onions if you want. I'm probably not going to do that because these are just so heavy and such a faff when they're all dried off, I'll cut them down and then store them in baskets. With the onions drying out in the greenhouse, what we're left with out here in the garden is an empty bed. Well, not exactly empty because there are a few weeds in here, some buddleia I can see, some nettles that are trying to take root. And so what I'm going to do next is clear it of anything green in this part of the bed. It's going straight on the compost pile. I'm going to tidy up the bed by raking it out, and then I'm going to plant it with some new seedlings. And this is one of the biggest skills that we can learn as vegetable growers, keeping beds filled. So once a crop is taken out, having something ready to go in its place so that beds are not left empty. And it is a challenge. And what I have to put in here today is some self-seeded spinach that I spotted in the bed with the leeks. I also have some turnips, and I have purple sprouting broccoli as well, and a few other things that I'm going to try to squish in. But the important thing is that I'm going to get this bed planted up so that it's not empty. I'm going to have more crops on the go, and it will also help to keep weeds down and help me keep on top of the vegetable garden. We're going to start looking at the garden down here at the bottom. I've got 3 colonies of bees now, and it's been really hot recently, and so I'm trying something a little bit different. I don't have my bee suit on, but let's see how close we can get. I've propped open the roofs with a couple of bricks, so there's a little bit of space, and then I've put a kind of a mesh there that they can't get through. And I'm hoping that between that and the mesh on the bottom that they get some really good ventilation. Because I really want to create a garden that's both wildlife friendly and produces food, a lot of the grass down here in the bottom we've left uncut. You can see kind of a curve there where we are cutting the grass. And my goodness, on a warm and sunny day, this area is positively humming. This is our most recent project. I think over a month ago, roundabouts, I lifted up the black plastic that was covering this area where all the pumpkins are growing. And then I dug holes where each of the pumpkin plants are, and I transplanted those plants. They were growing in the greenhouse. And then just yesterday, Josh and I spent the afternoon covering this area with cardboard, putting compost down and putting the wood chip down over here on either side of what will be the thornless blackberry area. You might have missed the thornless blackberries because I planted them in the grass over the winter, but I've got 3 plants. These are plants that I brought home from the allotments and then planted in the winter, and eventually we're going to put in a trellis here very similar to what I had at the allotments. In my last video, I did share quite a few different vertical gardening ideas, including these borlotti beans on a wigwam here in front. And you probably can see that there's a lot more growth from last time. These ones I'm not going to be picking for fresh green beans, but leaving the pods on the plant when they do form to dry out, and I'll harvest them for actual beans. The cucumber pallet trellis is starting to give some support to the cucumbers. You can see there's one plant there and one on the other side, and I'm using the string against the face to kind of tuck the plants in just to give them some place to grow up, some support. They will also cling to the wood as well, but I think that the string that I've added this year is going to be a big help. The top part of the vegetable garden is where I do most of my work. These are the more mature beds, being less than 2 years old, all of them. Most of these we built and filled last year. Parsnips that I transplanted from pre-germinated seeds, they are doing great, as are all of the beans and the achocha. With these, it's still going to be a little bit of time before we see any beans off of them, I think, but they're coming. Lots of brassicas I've got planted in various places around the garden. Cabbages over there. Lots of calendula this year. I've been experimenting with this celeriac plant, letting it go to seed because I would like to collect the seeds, but it has been a bit of a challenge in keeping it upright. So you can see my little rig that I've got set up here. But if I am able to collect the seeds off of this, my goodness, look at how many there are. It's incredible how much we pay for seeds when, if we let a few of our plants that are open pollinated varieties go to seed, you can get so much off of them. Just below the celeriac, I've got kohlrabi, lots of little plants. They're almost to the size that I would harvest them, about a tennis ball size. Nice and healthy plants, really lovely. Loads of beetroot too. This is a variety that obviously grows long and relatively thin, and I've planted them together in little groups, so it's called a multi-sown technique. So lots of little plants all growing together. They do just fine. In this bed we have this year's crop of celeriac. It's all very leafy still, but hopefully, Maggie, hopefully the roots bulk up really nicely like they did last year, because we really do like celeriac. And then the popcorn. This is the strawberry popcorn, and I hope to have a lot more luck with it than that other variety that I grew last year. What is going on over here? This is the reason, aside from insects, that it is so important for me to net certain plants, especially young plants. Look at this, she's using it as a hammock. Maggie, what are you doing? These are all carrot seedlings in here. And I've sown the seed just like I do in the Vegepods. So there's lots of really good germination there. The dark lines are from compost that I put on top of each row. And the mesh here keeps carrot root fly out. And also very naughty felines. Maggie. Most of the garden is dedicated to growing food. Now that's vegetables, that's fruit trees, berries, different types of herbs. But all around it are areas that are either wild or that I've deliberately planted flowering plants in particular to help promote biodiversity. So to attract pollinators, to support wildlife. And I do that because it's doing my piece to help support wild creatures in my part of the world, but also because it's good for the garden. If you have different types of flowering plants, they not only attract insects that potentially could come and devastate your crops, but they also attract the predators. And so it creates a balance. And that's one of the reasons that I don't have as much of an issue, I think, with certain pests in the garden. Now, flowers are beautiful, and I love having them in the garden as well. But I wanted to really focus on growing plants in particular that are going to support local pollinators, local wildlife, local to me. And so that's why this year I got involved in a seed trial mix with the Manx Wildlife Trust. And starting in April, I started sowing the seeds, and there was a little bit of an experiment in there that was led by the main gardener of the trial with growing them in a seed bed. I will have to say that that did not work very well, and I had to rescue most of those plants. It took me 2 days to cut them out and transplant them individually as small plants or as clumps of plants into the middle of this bank here. But they thrived, and they're now in flower. So let's have a look at the Manx Wildlife Trust mix, and also what's growing on either side of it. Let's go straight to the middle here, because these flowering ones, these are the Manx Wildlife Trust seed mix. And eventually they will be available to the public. Most of the flowers in here, I would say the majority, are the toadflax, the linaria. There's a lot of them, and they're so sweet. Once I transplanted all of the plants that remained after our drought in the spring, I had a bare patch over here, and I had a bare patch to the right. And what I decided to do last minute, I thought it might be a little bit too late, but I did it anyway. I went and I bought a RHS seed mix, so that's the Royal Horticultural Society seed mix, And I seeded these areas, and I've kept on top of watering, and you can see they're in this lush green stage where it's lots of foliage. I see flower buds, and the very first flowers of the rocket are starting to come out. But there's borage in here, there's California poppy, there's all sorts in here. And I think that by the next time we do one of these garden tours, so the garden in August, this will be in full bloom. Let's have a little look in the Polycrub. The garlic that I harvested last time is still here. It's completely dried out now, and we're gonna braid it towards the end of the video. Some really good cloves there, plenty enough for the two of us. And down the middle row are the tomatoes. The tomatoes have really been suffering from leaf curl this year, and this is caused by extreme temperatures, so really hot temperatures and then quite cool nighttime temperatures. It doesn't really cause that much of an issue with production, and I'll get plenty of fruit off of these, but you can see that they're really reacting to that change in temperature. Loads of tomato flowers at the moment, and even some green fruits, some larger ones a bit further down, but we're still at that stage of waiting for the fruits. And here, at least, it's mainly August and September that I really start seeing tomatoes come in. Whereas in other parts of the world, tomato season is already over. Here, we've got some really lovely green ones here, nice beefsteak ones. This behemoth of a plant is well over 6 foot. I think the last time I measured it was 6'3". And it is a tree spinach. It's a variety called magenta spreen. And when the leaves are quite small, like these ones in here, they're very soft and tender, and you can use them in salads. And then when they get a little bit larger, like this one, and there's even some larger ones around here as well, you cook them and they taste pretty similar to spinach. And as you can see, it's quite prolific. It does well in warm environments, and it doesn't bolt like spinach does. I'm growing a few different types of peppers this year. This one is a sweet pepper. I grew it last year as well. And this one looks ready to harvest. And there are some on the other side. Let's go have a quick look. On the far left here, we've got a padron, and these two are ready to pick. That's the kind of the ideal size for them. Actually a little bit smaller, more like that is about an ideal size. They get a little bit spicier as they get older, but if you do pick them when they're younger, they're much more mild. At least 90% of them are. And then beside them, we've got a type of paprika pepper. And this is a sweet pepper paprika that I got from Red Mai. And you can see that it's a little bit different from these ones over here. These are the Hungarian hot wax. And I grew these from seed. I've got a couple of plants here. And eventually these peppers will turn red. And these are the peppers that are used to make paprika spice. It's really my experiment this year to try to make my own paprika. And as you can see from these two plants, I think I'll have enough peppers to try it out. Earlier in the year, Josh and I put these fence panels up with the idea of growing sweet potato vines up them. And that's what you see growing on them right now. Although it hasn't been as easy as it sounds, because sweet potato vines, what I'm finding is that they like to sprawl, but they're not great at climbing. So they will grow up here, but they do stick out quite a bit, and I have to walk along here regularly, like these guys down here, and you can see they've come out of the fence, they're kind of hanging out in midair, and then I've got to help them to go up. And so if you are deciding to try to grow sweet potatoes vertically, please know that they will need a helping hand, but it does work. I obviously grow a lot of food, especially here in the Polycrub because it's so warm, and there's going to be a lot in here very, very soon, lots of harvests. But one thing that I have in here that is not an edible crop is indigo. And earlier on in the year, I think I told you that I'm going to start adding more and more soap making plants to the garden. And that's because I am obviously an organic food grower, but I'm also a soap maker and I make handmade skincare. And indigo is a plant that I can use for naturally coloring soap blue. And if you are aware of indigo as a natural dye, you might actually be more aware of it in terms of textiles, of fibers like wool and materials like linen. And this plant and the other type of indigo, they're fantastic at dyeing textiles a vibrant blue, everything from navy blue to vibrant blue. And so this is my first attempt at growing indigo. It seems pretty happy in here, and I'm going to start the process of fermenting it and extracting the indigo pigment from these leaves. And I'm going to be making a video about it too. So if you are interested in natural dyeing and soap making and you want to see that process, keep an eye out for a video very soon. Let's have a quick look at what's going on in the Vegepods in the greenhouse before we wrap up. First of all, this Vegepod is all carrots. Shall we pull one of these carrots? Let's do this one because it looks quite big and it's right here at the front. Oh yeah, look at that one. It's a decent sized carrot. So you can see that these Vegepods have plenty of depth to grow root crops. Those 3 rows of carrots that we sowed together in the last garden tour video, they're thick and lush and they need thinning, but I'll save that probably for another time, not right now. And then the medium-sized Vegepod, I've got radishes growing in there, some more radishes that I sowed a little bit later. This is dragon's tongue rocket here, lettuce that's bolting that I need to take out, and then some more lettuces that are on their way. These are a cause type, our favorite type of lettuce. Some time ago, I think April, May time, I planted this tub with just a single seed potato. It's a Cara seed potato. And I will have to say that this is the biggest potato plant that I have ever grown. It's in compost for the most part, and I have been feeding it with a liquid feed, keeping on top of the watering. I've also been removing the flowers, which I've taken inside for bouquets because this variety smells incredible, almost like jasmine. And I think it's September time that the competition that I'm growing these for is. And if there's no potatoes in this tub, I'll be really surprised. But I'm just so curious. What does babying a potato plant result in? Like how many potatoes and what is the weight of them? We will find out soon. This is the garlic that I harvested last month, and I've left it in the Polycrub to dry. Normally I would have taken it out and put it someplace out of sight, out of mind, and then braided it or plaited it later on in the year when I had a little bit more time. But it's been looking at me every time I go in the Polycrub, so I thought, let's just get this done. It's not that difficult to do, and if you know how to braid your own hair, you'll be able to do something like this. But I thought I also would take the opportunity to chat to you about videos, because as you know, I used to make a video every single week, and then I got really wound up in creating all of the videos for the soap making course, which is out now if you would like to enroll in that. It teaches you how to make handmade soap from scratch using all natural ingredients. But I had a question a couple of days ago on social media, and someone asked, when are you going back to doing a video every week again like you promised? And yes, I did promise that, didn't I? It's been great though, having a little bit of time off and having weekends. And I've gotten so much more done in the house and out in the garden and on my website and all of that. And I've been trying to think of ideas for me to be able to go back to making a video every single week again. A video like this takes a few days to do, filming, editing, everything. And I can't do that every single week and have a good balance with my product side and my website and all of that. Social media takes up a lot of time as well. So I've been thinking about it, and I would like to propose that I do longer form videos still, like this video, but that maybe on alternating weeks I do a shorter video. So when I say shorter video, I'm talking about 10 minutes or less, probably less, in all fairness. And if I made a video like that, so perhaps a particular garden task or a tip that I have, then I could probably squeeze in a video every single week again and still feel comfortable and have time for other things. So let me know what you think of my idea as a comment down below. And I will try it this next week, and I will put out a short video. And again, watch that and let me know what you like about that format, or if you don't like it and all of that. But I think that that may be the way to go forward. As always, thank you for watching this video. And if you've got any questions or comments for me, leave them down in the comments section. And also, if you have dried garlic and you would like to learn how to braid it, I've just, I think, finished up the last one. There's one little bitty one that I won't braid. I have a video that you can watch next, so you can see this a little bit closer, how to braid garlic. So go ahead and watch that next, and you can do something like this pretty easy. I'll see you next week for a new video here on Lovely Greens. Bye for now.